Okay, welcome back, beautiful students. This is just an introduction to the Allusions assignment for Acts 1 and 2 of Romeo and Juliet. Now that you've actively read both Acts 1 and 2, this is a review of allusions from those two acts. But once you gain a better understanding of allusions from this assignment, when you actively read in Acts 3, 4, and 5, you should be able to identify allusions as you go through and annotate. But for this assignment, what we're looking at is specifically the mythological allusions in Romeo and Juliet. And like I said, it's from Acts 1 and Acts 2. The first thing that I'd like you to do is read the following examples of these allusions. Okay, so for instance, if we were to use number 1 as an example here, okay, it says, but all so soon as the all-cheering sun should in the farthest east begin to draw the shady curtains from Aurora's bed. You'll notice that someone is obviously speaking here. It is a drama. But what you want to do is you want to research the specific bolded allusion. And here they make a reference to Aurora. So what you may need to do is actually go ahead and open up a Safari page and look for Aurora, and see what it has to say. Now, some of you have probably found or heard of the Aurora Borealis, so it shouldn't be anything too unfamiliar with you. But here, they even give you some example here from Shakespeare as the first hit. And it's actually referencing the specific lines that I just gave you, which is kind of cool. Okay. Here it says that they're referring to Roman mythology, and it's therefore an example of an allusion. Aurora was the Roman goddess of the dawn. The image portrays the sun drawing the curtains from the goddess of the dawn's bed. Okay. So if we look here, what we want to do is make a little note that Aurora is the goddess of the dawn. Now, one thing that I ask you to do is also highlight the speaker and the context of this piece. So if I was to go back to Act 1, Scene 1, lines 134 through 136 are in that general area. It just depends on what version you're looking at. If I go back to my Act 1, and I look at how that's being used in context of the story, we'll see that it is actually Lord Montague who's making the reference to Aurora, and he's in a conversation with Benvolio and his wife, Lady Montague, about Romeo. And he's referencing or being specific to Romeo's behavior the several mornings where he's seen him basically crying and then racing off to bed. So now that we've got a better reference of where that happens in the context, we're going to go back to our worksheet and say, okay, this is obviously Lord Montague. All right, he's speaking or having a conversation with his wife and Benvolio about Romeo. And this specific allusion, when we come to the third column here, we want to make sure that we explain why it's significant, or specifically, how does it enhance the plot by alluding to that specific goddess in this case? Well, let's think about it, right? Here, we haven't even met Romeo yet, but this is the first description that we get of him. And the fact that Shakespeare uses this allusion here really enhances Romeo's odd behavior, and specifically his odd sleeping patterns, right? That he's sleeping during the day. This sets us up particularly for the next conversation where Lord Montague does ask Benvolio to figure out what's going on with his son because he's worried about him. Hopefully this gives you a better idea of what's required for this assignment. What I'd like you to do when you're finished, if you go down here all the way to the bottom, is to answer the following questions after you've looked at the work that you've completed. And all of this is in preparation for finding allusions in Acts 3, 4, and 5 that help to enhance the poetic description and or imagery in Shakespeare's play. One thing else I'd like to point out to you, you'll notice that Cupid is referenced a few times. Yes, it's going to be the same allusion, but it really depends on the context of the situation, what significance it has at that point. So make sure that you're changing your reference as to who's speaking, the context of the story, and then, of course, the significance to the plot. Let's see, there's a couple references here. Love lights wings, right? They're definitely referencing Cupid again. So hopefully that helps you there. Jove is another name for Jupiter, or what we know in ancient Greece, or who we know in ancient Greece as Zeus. You will find here that you've got some historical references and some stories of historical figures, and hopefully that'll help you out a little bit there. But again, if you have any questions, just let me know, shoot me an email, or ask me a question during Google Meets. And that's it. Enjoy.